So it's great to be with you on a Wednesday night. We love our Wednesdays. We keep it casual. And so if there's anybody that wants to do a check-in, please do so. Anybody?
What does that involve?
A check-in could be anything that you're either working on, or maybe you had something that you had manifest for you in a good way this week. It could be also something that you're working on that you just want us to know about. And then at the end of the service, we actually do a affirmative prayer treatment where we'll do specific prayer requests, so we can hold on to those for now. Just like a check-in.
Mom's out of the hospital.
Oh, good.
So that's good.
Very good. That's awesome. Did she fight you when you got there?
No.
Okay, good.
I lucked out.
Very good. I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Well, for some of us political animals, we had some firsts yesterday. A lot of them, too many to mention, but stuff like the first Native American woman in Congress, stuff like that. First openly gay governor.
Is that in the same state where the wedding cake issue was raised?
Well, there was some poetic justice there. That woman who was refusing to let people marry in Kentucky, she was defeated. So anyway, a lot of good news.
Yeah.
Some bad, but some good.
Yeah, and did you notice if you're still seeing some of the races being counted, the percentages are so very close. Some are either going to be in a recount, or if you just looked even at the ones where the victories were declared, the percentages were very close.
African American woman governor is too close right now.
That was, yeah.
In Georgia. Yeah, so we'll just have to see on that one.
Yeah, very good. Every day is a new day, right? Anybody else have a check-in?
I do.
Go ahead.
Well, something happened last week. I was really frustrated with some of my business progress on some contracts and stuff. And I was watching TV, and I was watching the thing about Joel Osteen, and he was talking about, you just have to let it go to God. You can't be controlling things. When you control things, then nothing happens because it gets, fogged up. If you're going to rely on God and the universe. And so I said, you know what? I'm just going to let it all go. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And I got a call at 3 o'clock in the morning from Europe, and everything started happening. And Joel says, it could be a month, it could be a year. And he says, sometimes it could be within 24 hours. And I go, yeah, right. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, I got the call, and it's just been unbelievable. So I give the universe and spirit the applause and power when you just let it go.
Okay.
And let God.
Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? All right, so does anybody remember the topic for tonight? It was posted.
Healing awareness.
Healing awareness. Thank you. Did you post it? So, is everybody familiar with Saints of Mind? I didn't welcome you yet. We have a first timer, right? May we welcome you to our center?
Sure.
Thank you. Have you been in other Science of Mind centers?
Sorry?
Have you been in other Science of Mind based centers or spiritual?
Yeah, you used to go to a drop day.
Okay, so that's where I was trained.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what years were you there?
Early 2000s.
Okay, so I was there 96 to 2000, so you must have just...
Yeah, right around there.
Okay, very cool. Well, welcome. It's very similar, not quite as charismatic, but we do try. But the teachings, the principles are all based on the same teaching. And so, healing awareness. Now, this should be a quick one, right? Is there anything that we need to have a healing awareness?
Awareness?
No. I'll get it gone.
And ask?
Ask?
Willingness.
No.
Consciousness.
Consciousness, that's good. That's always the right answer. Consciousness always is the right answer. It's, and I had it so perfectly memorized and it escaped me for a minute and then it came to me back. Let me see if I can capture it again. Because if you really think of what Holmes would say about healing awareness, and it is Holmes that I pulled for tonight, is there's really nothing except for our permission to allow the revealing of wholeness. So there's not really, to have a healing awareness, there's really nothing required for it except for to know that our goal is to allow for the revelation of our wholeness. That our wholeness is always present. There was a more articulate way to say it earlier today, and I should have wrote it down. I thought I had this because I kept chanting it in my mind. But there's really nothing. There's nothing to be aware of except for the consciousness. That's you said that the consciousness that our wholeness has always been present. It's like perhaps what one of the sharing was about. It's like if you're not feeling well, I mean, I think that's okay. Sometimes not feeling well or having something happen to us is an invitation for us to be still. It might be an invitation for us to turn within and to learn, to have a lesson. I think anything we go through could be something that is an invitation for us to question whatever it is that we're not wanting to experience, to say, what is the lesson that you're trying to bring to my awareness? Now, at the same time, about healing awareness and wholeness, there's an isness to the wholeness. It's always present. It's just our seeing and aligning with it that is what's needed. It's for us to proclaim and accept and affirm our wholeness now. That's the other thing I love about our teaching is it's not subject to anything except for our awareness and our consciousness and accepting it and proclaiming it as our birthright now. Let's just say together, I accept my perfect divine healing.
I accept my perfect divine healing.
Right here and right now.
Right here, right now.
Okay, and if you really meant it as you said it, then that principle of mental equivalence kicks in. And if you said it with the conviction and the passion and the 100% belief, it can then manifest and work in, through, and as your very life at 100%. So when your mom was released, she had a healing, and that happened fairly quickly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she went in Saturday and went home Monday, Tuesday.
Okay, and that's really fortunate. And sometimes, the interesting thing about teaching foundation class, which we're in now, I think it's week 6 or 7, it almost all boiled down to something, and I'm just determined I'm going to go to, as I'm looking at stores, if anybody sees dials, please buy 2 of them and I'll reimburse you. I just want 2 big dials for here. One here and one here. And what I would do is say, whenever we're experiencing something we don't want to experience, it's usually in our humanness, right? So what I would say is I would want to turn down the dial. If it was on 10 out of 10 in our humanness, I would turn it down. And I would go to this one and I would turn it up. This is our spiritual nature, or that essence, the isness, the absolute. And I would turn that up. So anytime we're experiencing things in life that we don't want to experience anymore, if we've already learned the lesson, you don't have to repeat it. You can just have gratitude for whatever it's taught you and want to move on to the next thing. At the same time, I'd like us to practice that, if you're willing. To practice, that might be my humanness. And our humanness is very dense. It's also, if you watch the news, there's lots of things to be quite upset about, sad. There's some really just disgusting and sad stories. And you could really take yourself into I'll use the word tizzy, because it's coming to me, like you can get yourself all spiraled out of control. And that's our humanness. And in the world of the spiritual realm, the teachings that we teach from here, you know what? There's really not anything you can do to any spiritual truth that's going to be affected by any of the humanists, as sick as it is. As sick as some of the stories are, there's just that part of us that has never been hurt, harmed, or endangered in any way. I call it like our spiritual muscle. I believe that when you come to centers like this and you watch remotely and you practice meditation and you practice journaling and you practice introspection and you practice, however you pray, including the affirmative prayer treatments, that it must work. And so I consider that you building spiritual muscle. So I believe that just as we go to the gym to build a real, one of our body's muscles in our body temple, I believe all this is part of building spiritual muscle so we can become bigger, bolder, stronger. We can withstand more and more and more, because it almost always boils down to the fact that there's no problems in the land of the I am. There's no problems in the land of the absolute. There's no problems there's nothing that's not obtainable in the land of spirit with the capital S. And it sounds kind of weird, but the more you study the basics of science of mind, the more outstanding this teaching is. And for me, it's been a blessing to be able to facilitate that class, because I'm learning, even though I started this back in 1996, I'm really learning things now that I really am starting to get for the very first time, this many years later. Sometimes it'll just be a word or a phrase that never really quite stuck to me back then, but now it's like, oh, that's just brilliant. That's because of what you said, Steve, that my consciousness is now more aware of things. Just like when you have a favorite book at home and you read it, it could be different each year you read it. It could be different if you read it in 3 years or 5 years. Hopefully it is, because your perspective, your consciousness, your awareness has changed. So I did prepare a long talk, even though I'm almost done with really what I wanted to say about healing awareness. It's kind of a long message that I prepared. I'll see how fast I can go. And it's coming from the material's coming from the foundation class. There's actually a page, a section on it's called Healing Awareness, and it's Ernest Holmes. And then the second part of it was on healing, and it's done by Reverend David Walker, who's passed. And this is how it starts, which is where I wanted to start at the top. One of the greatest things you can ever learn about yourself is that you have power, the ability to affect life. The second greatest thing is that your power can be used to heal, bless, and create. And this is Dr. Walker. So, this is continuing his quote. The truth is, the person who can think can heal, and that means you. Healing is a part of your nature, not because you want it to be, but because it couldn't be any other way. And then the question, where does your healing power come from?
God.
Divine mind.
It could be spirit, yeah, God within you, spirit.
Absolute.
Absolute. Consciousness. Say it again? The universe. Right. It can come from all these things, right? Some of them are synonymous. I mean, sometimes if we have, like, I never want to, when I'm speaking about healing or wholeness, I want you to know that I'm aware that sometimes things don't always go right, according to the human realm. Meaning sometimes people are aware of a prognosis and they go fairly quickly. And in our teaching, the belief is that there's eternal life. There's nothing that really... So that's that person's journey, that person's path. In the eyes of spirit, capital S, A, absolute with the capital A, there's not there that our souls are indestructible, right? So we can lose the body temple that we wear. It doesn't take away our eternal being or our life. So I don't ever want you to think I'm being flippant with healing or wholeness when I'm speaking on these topics, because I'm aware that sometimes in life there are what appears, and what are just tragedy, right? And there are devastating things that occur. But I was just thinking, sometimes with a little bit of help, healings happen sometimes, even when I'm not even sure that the person's completely 100% aware, like, have you ever listened to all the side effects for drugs? On the commercials? I can't even listen. I mean, why would anybody take even one of those things?
Right.
If even just one of the 22 or 35 things
It's
that
worse
they
than the cure.
right. So it's almost like they should say, well, if you don't die, you might feel better. Or if you haven't already committed suicide, or one of the other things that all the side effects are just like. And then there's even drugs for if you're already on drugs. The lady with the mask, I read that one time. I wrote down all of the words, and I just couldn't believe what was being said. So, but the thing that I'm trying to say is there's sometimes, and this is a kind of a weird thing, but it's coming from a personal example, is, has anybody heard that in order, and let me make sure I'm getting this right, in order to sometimes cure a cancer, if it's caught quickly enough, is it that they radiate your body with TB? Have you heard this? Where the TB, is it TB that goes in and then it attacks the cancer cells? If it's done quickly enough. Anyway, I'll do a little more research on that, but I want you to know that I've heard that, and I'm, that where they're actually infusing you with something that you would, if you were like consciously aware that you're being infused with it, you might be like, whoa, I'm not so sure I want that. And at the same time, there's this treatment now where if you take it and you catch it early enough, that is trained to find and eradicate something that's bigger within us. So our nature is quite amazing. If you've ever thought about our body temple, I mean, there was a post I just recently read. Is it true that we're 90% water?
Yeah.
70%.
Or 70? Okay, maybe it was 70% water?
Yeah.
So the one that's posted and said we were 90% water said we're basically cucumbers with stress. So, on healing awareness with Dr. Walker, so we were talking about where does the healing power come from, and we covered a lot of ground on that. Its source, this is also with a capital S, it's the life force itself. Or if you prefer, God or divine mind. Because we're all some part of the mind of God. We partake of God's healing power. And the place where this power appears is in our minds. And we must provide the mental equivalent. And we've spoken about that here so many times, right? So if we make a proclamation and our word has power, it is able to manifest in, through, and as us at the amount of our belief in that word that we spoke. Mind is the healing agency. So healing then, as Dr. Holmes tells us, doesn't happen to us, it happens through us. If you're willing to repeat with me, healing happens, through me, now. All right, good. And so, do you want any affirmations for tonight?
Yeah.
There was a ton of them. Go like this when you're over it. Because there was the most amazing reading, and I took it and made it into some affirmations on this topic. And I'll read one and then repeat it if you wish. My word is the presence and power.
My word is the presence and power.
An action of love.
An action of love.
The living Spirit Almighty.
The living Spirit Almighty.
Peace and joy.
Peace and joy.
And wholeness. And oneness. I am aware of the infinite and limitless joy of being. All the energy there is. And all the enthusiasm there is. And all the intelligence there is. And all the happiness there is. Is the law of my being. Everything I do shall prosper. Joy shall follow me. Everything I touch shall succeed,
Everything I touch shall succeed.
and goodness shall surround me.
Goodness shall surround me.
Love shall flow through me.
Love shall flow through me.
Everything I touch is healed.
Everything I touch is healed.
Let's do that one more time. Everything I touch
Everything I touch
is healed.
is healed.
Wow.
And so did
This is the law of each one of us,
this is the law of each one of us.
and I accept the law of my being.
And I accept the law of my being.
I accept the absoluteness of that truth
I accept the absoluteness of that truth
and my own authority in it.
and my own authority in it.
And so it is.
So it is.
All right, so what else do we need to talk about on the healing awareness? Anything? So it's this idea of our wholeness, right? It's really it's allowing the revelation of our wholeness. It's allowing the affirmation that the I am that I am is already whole. There was nothing to be healed. There was only wholeness to be revealed. I knew it would come back to me. That was the very, I should have heard that. There was nothing to be healed. There was only wholeness, only my wholeness to be revealed. There was nothing to be healed. There was only my wholeness to be revealed.
Yes.
Now we can use that same idea with almost any spiritual principle of truth with a capital T, almost any God quality, right?
Yeah.
So we'll continue that. Is there anything that you want me to add into the talk before we wrap it up? Iris.
So, we understand this, we accept this, and we are conscientious of what's being revealed to us from the teachings. But our conscience can be stray.
Stray? Yes.
It will go away from
Yes.
this core of fundamental existential divine knowledge.
Yes. It's
So
it's
how do we have it with us all the time?
well, this is such an important, beautiful question. And let me make sure I understand it so that everybody got it. I believe what you were saying was it's a choice to use this teaching. It's a choice to use the idea and the concept of the wholeness to be revealed. And then if our consciousness chooses to stray or our belief strays, then all of it doesn't work. Is that what you're? And you're asking, how then do you combat that? How do you get more in alignment with our wholeness?
I almost feel that from my experience, I need to be always in that meditative state of mind to keep this conscience.
Very good.
Conscious. But we are not always in a meditative state of mind.
No. So I think if I'm understanding what you're saying is you're saying, if I feel, and because we're beings of free will, right? We have free will. We could just, Spirit is always waiting to make an impress on us to the extent that we permit Spirit to make an impress on us. It will not force itself upon us. I do not believe that Spirit will force itself upon us. I believe that Spirit is awaiting our invitation to it, to be a greater place for it, to work in, through, and as our very life. It needs our permission to work. And so, what you were just saying is that for you, a meditative state helps to realign, right, with this, right? And it might be different for other people. There might be people who just never do meditation, they're uncomfortable. But maybe for them, it's exercise. Maybe it's taking a walk at the beach. Maybe it's walking their dog. Maybe it's journaling. I don't know. I think a tool, if we find tools to help realign us, and the quicker the better, we can have results with what we're used to, which is drive-through society. I want my healing right now. And as was shared earlier, there's no time in Spirit, right? And because we're indestructible souls and our lives are eternal, even if we lose our mortal coil, it doesn't mean to spirit it's like, not a problem. So I'm glad you asked that, because it's always a reminder to figure out, this whole teaching is about introspection. This whole teaching is about finding the tools that work just for you. And it's different for everybody. The one person I was thinking of earlier, I don't think they had any idea that something harmful was being injected in them to kill the other thing. And that worked for them, to not know. Because I know a lot of people that if they knew and they paid attention and they read about it or researched it too long, that might be like, hell no. Right? That person had a healing by not knowing. Do you see what I'm saying? Or maybe they were just trusting. Some people just trust the doctors, right? I'm going to say trust yourself and be a co-creator of your revelation of wholeness and your healing, which doesn't require anything except for our alignment. Just as if our body temple was out of adjustment, some people might go to a chiropractor, right? That's kind of what all this is. Whenever we do our meditation, whenever we go to take a class, or maybe it could be a dance class for some people, right? It could be an exercise class. It could be going to the gym. It could be going for a walk. It could be coming here. Something might just click in us that goes, and we're like, got that. You know, if we just had one or two little clicks and revelations, that's really all we ever need to be right back in the flow of what's meant to be for our greatest and highest good. Thank you for sharing that. That was very powerful. Did I hear you properly?
Yes, I pick up a lot of cue from your messages. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, because actually a lot of people pick up an answer from your sharing, and I appreciate that. Okay, so there was just a couple other notes, and then I promise I'll be complete. So this was really powerful. This came from the Law of Attraction and the Science of Mind text, chapter 18. Page 294. We must embody the atmosphere of our desire. How's that?
Yes.
So for when I was thinking of this healing awareness, right? We must embody the atmosphere of like I'm ready to go. You know, I'm ready to go. I'm going home. And that was a powerful one. These get kind of deep. Nothing can hinder the man who knows that he's dealing with the one power that creates all from itself and yet holds everything in its place. One with infinite mind. One with the personality of God. We should let this reign through our mind many times each day. That's page 296. Think of the whole world as your friend. Let's just say that. The whole world's my friend.
The whole world is my friend.
The whole world.
The whole world.
My friend.
My friend.
And your friend is my friend. But think of that idea of throwing that out there. We may meet new friends, right? I love this one, page 298. Refuse to let yourself misunderstand or be misunderstood.
Refuse to
Let yourself misunderstand or be misunderstood. Is that unbelievable?
That is unbelievable.
And then right below that, that's on page 298. Know that everyone wants you to have the best. Affirm this wherever you go. Let's just say that. Everyone wants me to have the best.
Everyone wants me to have the best.
Yes, I should do. So the bottom of page 299, there's a divine principle, and what it does for us, it must do through us. We spoke about that at length, right? So the healing is in our mind. It's always been, and it must do it through us. We must give it permission. And build the atmosphere that matches it, right? At 100%. Ooh. Two more quick ones. When there is no longer anything in our mentality which denies our word A demonstration will be made. Nothing can stop it. For the law is absolute, capital A. Is that not the key of this? We should come to consider the law and the Spirit, capital S, as friends, and think of them as such. Don't you love that? We should, on page 300, we should ask for what we wish, take it. And then in closing, healing awareness, Dr. Ernest Holmes. We want to become aware of our own consciousness and its absolute oneness and fusion with all that is, so that there can be nothing separate from what we ourselves are, so that we know every word we speak is the presence and power and activity of the one and only in us, as us, so that we realize the transcendence of what we are doing, that the heart and mind, look at how I did that reverse, the heart and mind, and intellect, and the will, and consciousness completely accept it, and that nothing within us can reject it. How's that? Good enough for a Wednesday? All right, blessings to you all. We're going to have music and then we'll do a closing treatment. Oh, we'll do a sharing time too for tithing and circulation.
Yes.
We'll pass them home.
This is one of my originals I haven't done for a while, but I thought it sounded like it would go good with Brother Mark's message. I have come from a far-off place, a land that's filled with many questions. I have journeyed very far and brought back with me many lessons. There's one thing I must tell you now. There's one thing I must show you now. There's something to be done right now. It's time for us to see the truth of each and every heart right now. It's time to sing the soul back home. The journey starts right here, right now. The journey starts right here, right now. The journey starts right
so much, Reverend Deanna.
Thank you.
How blessed are we to have live Reverend Deanna here. Thank you for that. So we're going to do the closing treatment. Does anybody have any specific prayer requests we can add in?
Elizabeth Martin's pain in her back.
And is that your mom?
No, why you?
Can we have your mom's first name?
Sunny.
Sunny?
Yeah.
Ah,
Believe it or not.
I love that. I believe it.
My teacher didn't, I got in trouble. I had to falsify a note.
Anybody else?
Alice,
Alice?
Sam's sister Alice,
Okay.
for, she got a call, she has to go in for a biopsy. So just to calm her.
Okay.
The children and families in Yemen.
Oh my gosh.
Gaza Strip. Gaza Strip.
Mm.
Gaza Strip.
Oh, the Gaza Strip.
Sorry, I'm sorry. And children in cages and caravan.
Children.
In cages
Oh.
and caravan.
Okay.
Yes.
My sister, Sunny.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Huh? Did you ever get in trouble for having a sister named Sunny?
Never. Although she was trouble. She's trouble.
She probably still is. Okay. Is everybody ready to turn within? And so we're going to acknowledge the people watching remotely and enjoy and have them in our mind's eye and our prayer and our hearts as well. We have one of our practitioners, Kim, is watching remotely. A person in TI and Lorna, we're sending love and light intelligence to each of these people who watch us remotely and are served remotely. So I just invite us now to turn within. And as we exhale out everything that's preceded this moment in time and let it go, we inhale in this love intelligence, this healing presence, this wholeness that is always our awareness and can be brought to our awareness as easily as our breathing. Let's just breathe in our wholeness and our awareness of our wholeness with our breathing. And let's simply exhale out anything that does not match this perfect wholeness. And as we return to normal breathing, that we are one with the one that is the one of all, the back of all, the creator of all and all, as all, the I am, the source, energy, God, the mother, the father, infinite intelligence, the creator of all. This power and presence powers each of us, perfect, holy, and completely. And this truth is so right here and right now where Elizabeth is, God is. And so see in your mind's eye now with Elizabeth and Alice and Sunny, and anyone who is going through anything in the physical. I'd call forth now Levon, where she is, God is. Just see a light and love of radiant infusion in through and as the body temple. Let's start with ourselves. See that for yourself. Just light and love intelligence. We can do our own radiation right here and right now, because we definitely are an energetic being. We are the same magnificence that powers the sun. That's the intensity of our spirits. And so we can infuse and just fill with light this space within our body temple and send that same complete white and irradiant love intelligence to anyone we hold in our mind's eye and in our heart for perfect wholeness and the awareness that everything is operating perfectly in their every cell and fiber of their being. Just see this with this pink and glistening white radiant light that is pure spirit, and it's only spirit. So anything that doesn't match their perfection, to be pain-free, whether it's in the back, to have any cells that don't match perfect cells just be transformed and transmuted into perfect cells of goodness with a capital G. For both Sunnies, for Levon, for Alice, for Elizabeth, for all the children suffering from famine in Yemen, from all the parents that are separated from their children who have been kept in horrible conditions, and also for the 13,000 that are kept in 10 cities, and for all the violence in the Gaza Strip. Just see the same light, love, intelligence operating and having its way in spirit and in truth to make a way where we may not be able to see a way. And so I'm calling forth this power and this presence to make a way right here and right now, and declaring that it can do that because it created each of us perfect, whole, and complete. And I'm calling that forth now. I'm calling forth that adjustment in my mind to see the awareness of wholeness that was always there despite all the circumstances that were mentioned. So I call forth this wholeness now. I know that we have 2 or more gathered, and so we've activated that same awareness that was so magnificently demonstrated in Christ Jesus, the way shower, where he was able to use his consciousness and say with confidence to somebody to get up and walk, and know that they were able to get up and walk. And so I know that we have a field of healing awareness now that has been declared and spoken, and so our only job now is to just allow for our hearts to fill with gratitude. Gratitude for this time of worship, gratitude for this time of fellowship, knowing that any word that needed to be spoken was granted with the universal yes that Spirit declares, making a way for each person. Spirit knows even before we ask and always says yes. And so I can walk around with great confidence, knowing and expecting that all these prayers have already been answered, simply because I allow them to be. And I invite you to say with me together, and so it is.
So it is.
Amen. Okay.